What do racing, radical generosity, and the Bible all have in common? That's what we're going to find out today on the Connect podcast. I'm telling you, it's going to be so exciting. We're celebrating today the release of my new book, Formula 110.
Yeah. In the words of NASCAR, right? Gentlemen, start your engine.
We want to welcome you today to the Connect podcast. And I'm so excited. We've been looking forward to the release of this new book for a long time now. In fact, this is something that I sort of put in the queue several years ago. And I thought, this is going to be something I want to write about for the benefit of not only people of the Connection Church, but for pastors as we're called on to talk about this topic. And I started getting very serious about it in the spring, put it all together, and now finally the day is here. And you can tell how excited, I don't know if you can hear the kids in the background, cheering, but that's how excited people are about Formula 110. So as we get into this, my first question, Bobby, is who drives faster? Who drives faster, you or me? That's a great question.
I'm going to say me.
Really? What's that based on?
Multiple history and a record of speeding tickets.
Yeah, I wonder who's got more speeding tickets. That's the real question.
I could probably, I don't know if I could count them. Are we going back permanent record?
Back to 16. When did you get your driver's license?
16.
Were you 16?
16.
Okay. On your 16th birthday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the way we used to do it.
When was your last speeding ticket?
Ooh, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years, I feel like. I don't remember taking defensive driving for a few years, but I've taken a lot of them.
Me too.
I like the one.
I think I'm about 4 years removed from a speeding ticket.
I like the one where it's sort of a cartoon. Have you done that one?
Yeah.
It's very entertaining. It's funny. I mean, as funny as you can be about, a class, but I've also gone to back, Mamacita's is my favorite restaurant, and it's hard to find these days, but I've done defensive driving at Mamacita's. Yeah. Different places, all over the place. But so it's hard to say who drives faster, and it just depends, it depends on how much of a hurry I am to how much behind I am, I suppose,
I just feel like I got to get there.
Yeah.
I feel like everything's trying to slow me down on the road and get in my way and keep me from getting to my destination. And so I don't know if it's the competitor in me. I don't know if it's a challenge, but I feel like even the guy, if I'm driving slow on the highway and someone's going around me and passing me, something switches in my head that says speed up.
Yeah. I've got a ticket over. No, I didn't get a ticket, but I got pulled over on Robert S. Light.
Yeah.
In the truck. So that's been in the past, year and a half or so.
Oh, then you've got me beat.
But I don't think he gave me a ticket, but I was,
warning.
I mean, it's only like 35 over here on this Robert S. Light, from the highways. So it can be tricky. Well,
I've always tried to get in good with the police officers that work at the church.
Yeah.
So that when they see me driving like a maniac in the church, they're like, it must be ministry needs.
Yeah. I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah.
We need, pastors should have a light that, an emergency siren light that you put on top of the car so that, you can just.
Lights and sirens.
But just want to make sure. I don't like to play the pastor card. I don't know if it'd be effective even. Unless they already know what you're doing and stuff. I don't want to be like, yeah, I'm a pastor. It seems a little lame. But the new book uses the picture. It uses sort of the metaphor of racing, a race car, of driving Formula 110 in order to really explain how do we handle our finances in a biblical way, in a godly way, and an effective way. And it reduces, stress, worry, fights. I mean, think about what marriages, they say divorce, one of the main reasons of divorce is fights over finances.
It's children, intimacy, and finances. All day long.
Yeah. And so many times couples have, they want to enter into a marriage and they want to have your money and my money and, and really try to figure out, okay, you're going to pay for this part. I'm going to pay for this part. It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be our money. It's the family business. So it all goes into one place. But, but as we get into this, I do want to say people get funny when we talk about money in church.
And they get strange when you talk about change.
Yeah. When you talk about the ka-ching, bling, bling.
I was thinking, and that phrasing, but more like when I have to change my mentality about the way I think about my money, I start to act real weird.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this, just honestly, transparently, because we're behind the scenes here and you're watching because you have a special interest in this. And, it's interesting that as a pastor, I have a responsibility to talk about what it means to grow as a Christian, to be a mature, fully devoted, developed follower of Jesus. And part of that is stewardship, stewardship is like a word we don't use much in the, in the world so much. It is a word, but it's like, it really just means manager. To be a steward means that I'm managing the resources that God has given me. And so it's my job. One of our jobs is to help people in this area of money. So, we have to talk about it. We know Jesus talked about it
a lot,
more,
actually.
Yeah. More than he talked about faith, more than he talked about heaven or hell. He talked about money and possessions. Because why do you think that is?
Well, we spend money on what we care about.
Yeah. Where our heart is, that's where we put our treasure. And where we put our treasure, that's where our heart goes.
Yeah.
Right. We spend a lot of time.
I can find out what you're invested in by analyzing your investments, what you're spending your money on.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at we used to say, look at your checkbook, but really it'd be like your bank account. Look at your bank account, see where the money goes, and it'll tell your priorities pretty quickly. Right. So we want to make sure that, in our life, God is our top priority. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God. Jesus said that, and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you as well. So we're seeking first his kingdom. We're putting him first in everything, including our finances.
Yeah. I think it's in the story, isn't it? The rich young ruler, where at the end of it, he concludes with, you can't serve two masters.
Yeah. And he
that's
says,
in the context of money and the Lord.
And he doesn't say it's a bad idea to serve two masters. He doesn't say, don't try to do that. He says it's impossible. It's impossible to have two bosses.
That's a fascinating concept, because then money can be a master. It is a Lord that you are surrendering to, sacrificing to, giving your all to get, to gain, to achieve. We see that in our little kids. My kids, one of them, Malachi, went out yesterday and he's like, I want to make money. He went around the neighborhood washing vehicles, knocking on doors, trying to make money. Abby went and got pink lemonade, mixed it up, went out, set up a little pink lemonade stand, $2 for 1 cup, $4 for 2 cups. I was like, that's a steal right there.
Yeah.
But they were all consumed with, their phrasing is, I need to make money.
You're raising little capitalists.
Well,
little business moguls.
We can teach them to tithe, save, and
stuff, but that's good. That's good, because
maybe take some of the principles from the book.
Talking about that, let's talk about that. We're kind of free flowing here, but tithing is one of those things too, as parents, that you do it. Maybe you're doing it. The question is, do your kids know that you're doing it?
Right.
Because you're modeling for them and passing that on. So you don't want to do that in secret.
So one of the things we've done with our family is, every time that we have the big giving moment in the church, the all summer offering, the heart of Christmas offering, we're doing that as a family. We're bringing that envelope up as a family. If our kids are in the back when they were little and they're not in the service with us to come up, then we're praying about that at the dinner table. We're praying about that at the house, filling that envelope together.
Yeah.
Communicating, talking about what is this going to, the vision behind it, why we're giving, what we're giving to. Christmas presents might be a little light this season.
Yeah.
But we're giving to a greater gift.
Yeah.
As the church and what God wants to do in our community. So I think has vision behind it.
That's good.
To be a part of it.
That's good. That's good. So did I mention that this is available now today on Amazon? You can search.
That's amazing.
You can search Cole Phillips Formula 110. I have a couple of books on there, but this
Where do
one,
I get the signed?
Well, if you're at the Connection Church, you can get it at the Connection Church. But if you're if you're just watching and you're out there somewhere, you're going to have to contact me, DM me, something like that,
Okay.
and I'll make sure you get one. But yeah, the signed copy is going to be worth, you know, maybe a quarter more at half price books soon. So, you know, it's really good
I
to
don't
get
think
it.
so. I don't think so.
So you don't even think that?
No, I think the money principles in
Mhm.
there are going to elevate the value of that book
Yeah.
tremendously. As soon as you get into it,
Well, one of
it
the
is gold.
well, I said people get funny when you talk about money, but one of the momentum, the amazing things that's happening right now is our church is so excited about this series, more excited than any series that we've done for a while. They're super excited about it and they're cheering, you know, we're going to talk about, you know, Formula 110. I don't know if they know what they're cheering about.
I think we're going to talk about Brad Pitt in the movie.
But yeah, but people are excited about it, which is good. And every time we do a series on finances, the church grows. The church grows numerically. And I can't explain that. You know, it seems counterintuitive, but it just always happens. So, you know, it's not just about, you know, this is not just about giving. This is an overall strategy for how do you handle your finances.
Yeah.
And we want to definitely, you know, help with that.
I believe it's in Acts chapter 2, or no, it's like 6, where it talks about the beginnings of the church. And it says that they were they were meeting in the homes, the temple courts, breaking bread.
Yeah.
They were sharing their possessions with all that they had, with everyone that was in the church. They were all united, and the Lord added or multiplied to their number daily.
Yeah.
There's a mathematical equation. There's a math principle there that when they were sharing what they had, God was doing addition and multiplication to the church. So that kind of ties in what you're just saying. Every time we preach on this, the church starts growing numerically when we start talking about numbers.
Well, you know, you're reminding me that the opposite of a generous person is a miser, right? A miser is somebody who hoards what they have. They hold on to it. They're stingy, selfish. And the root word there, miser, is where we get the word miserable. So, you know, that's not attractive to anybody. Nobody wants to be around a miser, a miserable person. A generous person, no matter how much money you have, if you're generous, you have a generous heart, a generous giving spirit. And that's attractive to people, right? People want to be around that. Yeah. So that's what we want to do. We want to learn to live open-handedly with what we've got.
Wow.
So you saw the book was largely done, but before I saw the movie this summer, F1 with Brad Pitt.
Such a good movie.
But I saw that movie. It was so good. And I went to Cinemark, and at Cinemark, you have to pay extra, and I didn't do this, to sit in sort of like this section there. They have like rumble seats or something where you feel it. It's like 4D. I think they're spraying stuff. They're shaking, but I sat the row right in front of it. So when they're hitting those strips on the racetrack and stuff, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I can feel it just as a result of sitting close. So
that's pretty awesome.
Tell me what are some applications that you found from that movie? I know we've talked about some of this, and when it comes to your finances.
Well, when it comes finances
or life in general.
Well, I mean, with the finances, I'm immediately reminded that the huge crash scene where the young guy and Brad Pitt are competing, and they're both just pressing the gas. They're going pedal to the metal. Their pride, their ego's in the way, and there's this horrific crash because he wouldn't slow down before the turn, and he took that turn going in there way too hot, flipped, crashed, and almost cost him a lot, but almost cost him his life. And I just think, financially, we do the same thing. You start keeping up with the Joneses in life. You start running the rat race and taking out more credit cards, driving yourself further and further into debt, and you're not pumping the brakes on anything.
You're pushing, driving too fast, and go out of control.
That whole,
control.
If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
Ricky Bobby quote.
Wow. Yeah. And Jesus says the last will be first. So so it's an upside down view, and it's really an upside down view of finances. I was just thinking about the idea that, a friend of mine at the church named Eric came up to me on Sunday, and he was looking at the book, and he said, wow, this is such a cool concept. It's financial management, money management combined with the Bible. He said, it's never even crossed my mind. I've never heard of that. And so I think about, no, he hadn't heard of any of that. So, you know, I think that though that's so true, because you see a bunch of people in our world who are very wealthy, but they're not happy, right? Because you can have all the money in the world and be in your relationship with God, and you're never going to be satisfied, right? So you've got to include that piece. You've got to have the foundation in place in order to really be happy and content with at whatever level you are in your finances.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some of the guys on YouTube who are making money, and I mean, the Warren Buffetts and all that of the world communicate that, I want to get 1 million. Once I get 1 million, I want to be a multimillionaire and I want to be a billionaire. How many trillionaires are there in the world? It's this pursuit of more. There's never a number that is enough when it comes to money, because it will never satisfy you.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a finish line, and you get so caught up in
Yeah. It's all, how
pursuing.
much do you need? More. It's a myth, the myth of more.
Yeah.
That,
And we fall into it. I fall into it every day, babe. If I just had more money, we wouldn't have the financial problems that we have. Really, the truth is, are we mismanaging our money in areas? I think God's given us enough. Are we being lackadaisical with our stewardship of those finances?
now, granted, this
Yeah.
was in the early 90s when Pam and I got married. But when we got married, we made a combined income that first year of $12,000.
I know.
Yeah.
What year? 90s?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Bind.
And we were, we were living in a fully furnished apartment. It was a Roach Motel.
You're probably in college.
We were in college, working a couple of jobs.
Wow.
And we just had nothing, I can't say we were happy, but we made it, we made it on that.
Survived.
We survived on that income. And then, you always are, whenever you get a raise, you raise your standard of living,
Isn't that so fascinating?
Yeah.
It's not that I find that I got a raise and I have more money left over every month. It's, where did that money go? Immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just find more stuff to spend it on.
Right. Right. And so it's really learning, learning some contentment and understanding that more stuff is not going to equal more happiness.
Yeah.
That's not going to ever fully, satisfy. So we talk about that in the book. But another really cool thing in this book is that this book has real stories of connectors,
I love
people in the Connection Church who
it's very
who are telling their story. And it's interesting because I've watched other churches' sermons related to finances and things like that, and they'll always have these testimonies. And I think, wow, if only we had those kind of stories at our church. And then you start talking to people and you find out that they are all over the place. Like, whenever you're faithful in your finances, God is doing something.
Yeah.
And so, there's no, guarantee of how that blessing is going to come. But for example, there was a lady in our church who was the first one to pick up the book and to read it. And as she's reading it, she says to her husband, "Hey, we're going to start being financially faithful with our money." And he says, "Yeah, let's do it." And then they went to dinner and they got their dinner comped. Okay. Now that's what you call like an anecdotal story, right? It's just, it's just one story, but you start seeing story after story after story, and you think there's a spiritual principle behind this,
Yes.
So, it's not get the book and you're guaranteed one free meal or anything like that. I don't have a coupon in there,
for the guy in front of you of McDonald's is going to pay it forward.
Yeah, but there's always a blessing that is attached to this. And especially, you start getting out of debt, and just think of the money that is released each month that is released. Some people get so far. I've heard comedians talk about this before. They're like, I've just gotten so far in debt. It's just like, I don't even know where the joke is in this, but it's just like, now I'm just going to coast because I just know there's no way out of it. So, you just kind of go roll with it. But, I think that's kind of, that can be a very cynical way to live. The fact is, you can be free. You can, and think of the, the power in that. I know we've had those in our church, like the Hootens, who've called up the Dave Ramsey show and got to, yell out, we're debt free, and the whole thing, freedom. So it's exciting when that happens. But yeah, this book is, we do address some practical ideas about how do you manage your money, because it's frustrating. I don't want to bash, and I'm going to, but our education. But so often you're spending so much time learning about things that are, don't seem very relevant. But I don't remember ever taking a class on how do you balance your budget.
Have you seen the new Monopoly boards?
What do they do?
They've got credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
You can just buy hotels and buy houses.
Charge.
More into debt. Into debt. It's almost as if the education that we are giving, and I mean, when I'm kind of worried, as soon as my son turns 16 or 18, he's going to get a credit card in the mail.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to know where he lives, but it's designed to.
They do.
This is the way that you do it.
Yeah. I got a department store credit card on my 18th birthday. Immediately, it was $200 worth of credit. Immediately went there to the department store and bought some stereo components. I thought, these suckers, they don't know what they've done. They've given me this money. And then of course, the bills start coming in, and people will advise you, well-meaning people. And what kind of a common advice is, you need to start using your credit card to build your credit.
Build your credit.
And you find yourself all of a sudden buried in debt.
It's just dangling you the temptation to debt.
Yeah. So I think if we can address this up front, even with our students, and help them get a handle on this before it becomes a problem, they're going to be ahead. So if you get this book, now one of the things we're doing is in our connection groups, in our small groups, we're going to be taking what we talk about on Sundays, and we're going to be kind of laying it out in a practical, how do I apply this in my personal situation, with my finances. So we want people to get in connection groups. There are group questions at the back of the book, as well as some, I'll get into that, but the group questions, but the sermons on Sunday are not going to be, reading this book. It's not going to be that. So you kind of read the book along with the sermons are going to be some other additional information that we're going to get. So it's all going to kind of work together to really help us focus in. And like I was saying, that the appendices back here are like sample budgets, a devotional, a week-long devotional regarding our hearts when it comes to finances, the scripture reference glossary here of all the scriptures. So there's scriptures used throughout the book, and lots of resources that are going to help in addition to just reading the book. And you can download blank versions of these resources at Formula One. You can go there and just download them.
So I see where you're playing with the Formula One. What's the 110?
That's a great question. So Formula 110, the formula is the first and the 10%. Okay. God wants our first, and that's a matter of priority. That's a matter of who's first in your life. And so, a lot of people will sort of pay all their bills, and they'll do, get their grocery, everything they've got to do. And then whatever is left over at the very end, they say, okay, I'm going to give this to God now. Well, what you find is at that point, there's really nothing left. I remember when we first started the church, there was a guy, and I'm sure there's thousands of people who do it this way, but one guy in particular who would go out on Saturday night, with a wad of cash, spend it all. And then his method of giving was whatever's left, that's what in my pocket, that's what I'm going to bring on Sunday. Yeah. And so you're giving God your sloppy seconds, right? Your leftovers. One of my favorite offertory prayers is an old guy who prayed this. He said, God, no matter what we say or do, this is what we think of you. Meaning our offering really gives a good picture of our view of God.
That's good.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's the first. But then the 10, of course, is 10%. So the tithe, the word tithe literally means 10%. And so, if we're going to go into this concept, like there's a lot behind that because it's very controversial. You'll see, you'll hear preachers say, oh, the tithe doesn't matter
Applying in the
anymore.
Old
It doesn't
Testament.
apply. It's Old Testament. And that's Old Testament law. Well, it's actually not an Old Testament law. It's an Old Testament principle that was instituted before the law was ever given.
Yeah.
And so it's a principle. And actually, in the Old Testament, they didn't just bring 10%; they brought 22%, right? It was, or 23%. And so it was because it was two tithes, and then there was a percentage of the tithe every year. But when I look at that, you say, well, we're under grace, not under the law. Well, shouldn't grace motivate us
Oh,
to be more
absolutely.
generous?
Yeah.
So to me, tithing is training.
The fact that Jesus, God didn't withhold anything from us, that he gave it all. He paid it all.
Yeah.
He, in a sense, he depleted the treasuries of heaven to
That's good.
purchase you and me back from the grip of sin and death. Why then would I be limited in my response on my generosity? It should be, like you said, amplify. It should spark more, an over and an abundance of giving.
Yeah. So it's a good, definitely a good marker to measure our giving. And actually, I would say we bring 10% to God, we save 10%, right? And for our future, and then live on the 80%. Would be ideal. Instead, we're living on about 104%, something like that, like over, because of debt. We're actually spending more than what we make instead of having that margin. And you start to get your finances in order, and everything starts to fall into place. And it just brings a lot of peace.
We heard from story after story of our go team that came back from the Philippines, and just the poverty that the slums that they were ministering and giving the gospel in. And each and every one of our members from our church came back and said, they're living in the worst of situations in the entire world. This is as slow
Our
as it
people
gets.
in America who are in poverty actually are much wealthier than the people there.
Yeah, you're like
because
a
we have
king.
access to resources here.
You're essentially a king in their minds, and yet they're more content, and they're going through way worse.
Yeah,
They have way less at their disposal.
Yeah, and
we have a lot more, and we're way worse.
But because of our giving, we're able to actually help them in the middle of those situations.
I just think what do you always say? First world problems.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I have a saying about it, but yeah, these are first world problems. They make me laugh. When you do without internet, for half a minute, we freak out, right?
If the connection gets slow, we're it's that whole speed up thing.
Yeah. So let's move into something just fun and light here. What is your dream car?
Oh, it is a 1972 Chevelle.
That's cool. I was looking, and I couldn't figure out what year it was, but I know I really used to want I think it was like a Corvair from the 60s. Those are really cool.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the other day, back after I was getting some work done on the truck, and they rented me this new Dodge Charger, and man, I had no idea what I was missing. You talk about speeding. Like, I would get a ticket every day, and there was just so much horsepower in it. And once I drove it, I was like, why did I get that? Why did I get that truck? It was awesome. It was awesome. But, that's kind of one of those midlife crisis cars.
I'm a fan of the old school muscle. Anything late 60s, early 70s.
Well,
Chevy.
My first car was a 79 Camaro.
Really?
Yeah. And it cost like $700.
No, stop it.
And then
now it probably costs for that same, restored 30, 40 grand.
My second, well, so from that, I got this other car, a Cougar, and that didn't really work out so well. So I love that Camaro so much, but I'm getting like a 78 Camaro following that. And I just love those cars. It's so great. So great. Yeah. Yeah. And so anyway, but
what color?
They were gray. They
Great.
were great. Yeah, they're both, well,
Nothing
one might have
flashy.
been like silver or gray. Yeah. I loved it. So great. So great. So man, what is I hate to ask this question. What is a splurge for you, like to spend money on something and you say it's totally worth it?
Well, totally worth it. A splurge. Anything I can do with family vacation
Mm,
is
that
totally worth
is,
it. That's
what a great heart, man. What a
the
great
that's the
answer and
right
a great
answer
heart. Yeah.
when I mean anything at Cabela's.
Okay. Anything it comes. That's a
Guns,
lot.
ammo,
That's a
fishing
lot.
lures.
Man, I went to
I could spend
this.
like my wife.
Uh,
You go into Cabela's. There's a little lady at the front, and she chases you down, and she says, "Do you have a Cabela's credit card?" And I got one many years ago. And the same thing you did. I just started racking up
uh,
all the points, is what I thought I was getting.
yeah.
And my wife took my credit card from me, and I have not found it to this day.
I thought you were going to say, when I splurge on my wife, it's totally worth it. But that's not what, when you buy something nice for her, but that's not what you were saying.
It's not where my selfish mind went.
Okay.
If I'm in a good place, I want to do something for the family. I want all the family together, vacation, dinner. I mean, it's a splurge just to take my family to Chick-fil-A.
Going out to eat
right now is a splurge.
That's totally true.
We're eating sun butter and jelly sandwiches tonight.
What's harder, driving a manual transmission or sticking to a budget?
Sticking to a budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So also,
it's amazing how many people they were saying that's the new anti-theft device for cars. Manual. Kids don't know how to drive them anymore.
There was so my granddad had this Chevette. It was a Chevette. Right? I think it was.
It's a Chevy Chevette.
Yeah. It was not very cool. It was not a very cool car. But he was going to give it to me. But it was like passing it to me through my dad. Once my dad got a hold of it, my dad didn't want to give it to me. But I drove it a couple of times. And it was, so this is right when I started driving, when I was 16, I guess, or I don't even know if I had a license yet, but yeah, driving that stick shift and I remember being on a steep incline and being like, come on, got to get it. It can be tough. But anyway, so why, what's that about? Oh, this is a good one. You're on a road trip, favorite snack?
Ooh, is a Buc-ee's along the route.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not always that I'm on a road trip and it depends on what part of the.
I'm going to guess you're going to say beef jerky.
Close. The pecans, the honey roasted pecan thing that they have.
Yeah.
I have to get one of those every time we pass a Buc-ee's.
So mine is those not cherry sours, but the sour balls. They're like the cherry sours, but they're all the assorted flavors. And
is that what was like sold at Cracker Barrel back in the mason jar?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like yellow, red, white.
It's only Buc-ee's.
I've never seen these.
that I get them. And it's going to be a real problem because we're about to open a Buc-ee's right here
it's not going to be
the area.
It's going to be amazing.
And I'm going to.
That's where I'm going to get my gas.
And I probably won't even like those anymore because, it's one of the great things about
that is, yes, it's only when you have the special road trip occasion.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
we both have Buc-ee's pits.
Yes, Buc-ee's is the place. So, I do want to encourage you to pick up the book.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, but it is powerful and very very practical. No, it's not a hard read, but it's very like power packed, and this really, I believe, can be a turning point in your walk with the Lord, because once you get this area right, it's like we say, our money is the last thing we kind of get in gear, and it's the first thing that we jet on, when we're kind of moving away, or we're getting cold in our relationship with God, right? So you get this and you start firing on all cylinders when you get this part right in your life.
Yeah.
So
great.
Yeah.
I'm excited, looking forward to it.
So I'm excited. We're getting started this Sunday. And of course, this Sunday,
it's a big one
in Buda, at our Buda campus, we're going to start a fourth service. So we got new service times, 8, 9:30, 11, and 12:30. Starting, in this new series. It's a 4-week series, and just excited about everybody who's going to get a free financially, experience new peace in their life. And it's going to be great.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If this has been helpful to you, be sure to share it with your friends and be sure to catch us next time on the Connect podcast.
There you go.
All right.